Welcome to another Telltale Books video. I'm Greg, and I'm here to talk about the second work by Austin Hall that I can get a hold of, The Rebel Soul. We are Telltale Books, bringing you the best in literature, literary topics, and graphic design and bookmaking.
If you want to support us, you can find us on Etsy and Pango, where you can find gently used, rare, and even top quality used books.
And if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and maybe even that bell to be notified when new videos go live.
Thanks for joining us.
The Rebel Soul is the second science fiction work by Austin Hall. There isn't a whole lot of information about Austin Hall himself. He worked full-time as a cowboy in California, primarily in San Jose area, which is where he got involved with Homer Eon Flint, and they eventually did collaborate on a novel titled The Blind Spot. He wrote a lot of westerns, but I can only find two titles. The report is that he sold over 600 stories all total. He only has maybe 7 or 8 science fiction fantasy titles, if that much. So the rest are all probably westerns or mysteries or other adventure stories, and good luck finding them. Good luck even finding a listing of what they were titled. I couldn't find anything on them. All I can find are his science fiction fantasy works listed at the Internet Science Fiction Database. So that's all I'm going to cover with Austin Hall. I am not going to be successful in tracking down over 600 stories, and I'm not going to try and read them. But these were all published between when he started publishing in, I think, 1912 and his death in 1933. So only about 20 years, and he did over 600 stories. So wow. But he loved the outdoors, and Forrest Ackerman quotes him as saying that he characterized himself as the orneriest, commonest landlubber alive, whatever that means. So, I'm only going to be going through Austin Hall's science fiction, fantasy, horror works, which aren't many. So I'm not even going to cover a tenth of his total bibliography, because frankly, I just don't know what they are. I only found 2 Western titles, 2 Western novels. One of them is on Project Gutenberg, so I could read it, but I don't know. I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to stick with his science fiction fantasy works here. So we already covered his first story in a video review. This is Austin Hall's second science fiction work, titled The Rebel Soul, which was sold, of course, to All Story Weekly, published on June 30th, 1917. It is a novella, and it's part of a series titled the George Witherspoon series. This is the first story in the series. The second story completes the small series here, and I will be getting to that in a couple weeks, I think, after this video goes up. I'm forgetting the title of it. I want to see. It has Infinite in the title. I keep wanting to say Invaders from the Infinite, but that's John Campbell. It's not the right one. So anyway, The Rebel Soul. What is it about? The Rebel Soul, I read it in a PDF of the reprint of it in Famous Fantastic Mysteries. the lead into the story had this quote: "He was completely unfettered by man-made laws." That kind of sums it up really well. In the story, you have, and this is something I don't like about how the story was written. You have you start off with Professor Wilkins. He's a professor of either psychology or physiology. The narrator is not quite sure. The narrator at this point is not named. We don't know who this is. Let's assume it's the author, Austin Hall. But they're talking in a restaurant, and Professor Wilkins is talking about his idea of how what we are, our minds, are entirely the product of the physical and chemical processes of our bodies. You know, that when we die, our mind dies. There is no, he doesn't believe in a soul. Well, this guy comes over and says, for the most part, I agree with you. Couldn't help but overhearing. Hope you don't mind. I hope you don't mind if I join you. For the most part, I agree with you. But I believe there is something more than just the physical body. And this is why. And he starts relating his story. And he is Walter Warren. Okay? And he starts when he's a very young child. His parents come home with the son of a family friend. The family friend and his wife both died, leaving this young son without parents, without anybody to take care of him. So they take him in, raise him as their own. So they have these two sons. George Witherspoon is the name of the guy they take in, and their own son is the narrator, Walter Warren. Gotta try and keep these straight. It's gonna be spoilers in here, so I'll let you know when those are coming up. Right now I'm still setting the stage of this story. So this guy's an old man that sits down with them at this time, and he relates a story. When he was a young child, this George Witherspoon came to live with his family, and the two of them grew up as like brothers. Did everything together. They went off to college. Now, Witherspoon is a kind of a devil-may-care playboy type character. Walter Warren is a nose to the grindstone, work hard, do everything right, make people happy type of character. They go to college. Walter studies hard, does his work, succeeds in college that way. George Witherspoon is just a playboy. He's out screwing around all the time, never doing his homework, but he's smart enough that he still graduates with honors. So at graduation, Walter has met the woman of his dreams. They're planning to get married. She agrees to marry him. And George graduates at the top of the class, even though he's a cad. Right after graduation, George and Walter are in a room, and George says, no matter what happens, remember, I always love you. You're always my brother. And then a change comes over him, and he kind of has like a seizure and passes out. Walter Warren goes and gets a doctor. Come back, the doctor looks at him, isn't quite sure what to make of it. They decide to see if he wakes up in the morning and how he is. Doctor goes away. And then Walter wakes up. Walter goes to sleep. Walter wakes up, and he sees himself awake in the room. What's happened is George and Walter switched bodies. Their minds went into each other's bodies. And this is something that George, he's capable of doing this. And he did it on purpose so that he can have everything that Walter worked so hard for. And that Walter's going to continue to work hard for George Witherspoon in George Witherspoon's body and continue to bring him a lot of success. In the meantime, George's mind in Walter's body is going to totally ruin and discredit Walter's life. Because that's just the kind of asshole he is. Walter mind in George's body meets up with a doctor who tells him it's because George Witherspoon is a rebel soul. They don't care about anything but themselves, and they swap bodies to keep themselves going. And they just stand for chaos, death, and destruction. Okay, spoilers from this point on. Walter, in George's body, goes on, becomes a successful DA. George, in Walter's body, goes out and just carouses, drinks, does drugs, and finally, Walter George is in the park at night and sees George Walter murder that doctor on the street. So George Walter gets arrested, thrown in prison. Walter George has to try him, and he's struggling with this, and he finds a card in his coat pocket, which is George's coat, remember, because he's got to wear George's clothes. He's got George's body. He finds this card that has this like logo made of sevens. And he's walking in the city short time later, and he sees that logo on a door. So he goes in, and that's where he meets the Master. The Master is a guy who knows all of this that's going on, knows about the rebel soul, says there's actually lots of rebel souls throughout history, that and they all are like this. They're all for chaos, death, and destruction. And they think that they can continue on forever like this because they can just jump bodies whenever things get too tough. And it's like the rebel soul isn't really George, but it is George, but it's this thing that's greater than George, you know what I mean? The story is it becomes very much a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde story, or there's one that inspired Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde that came before that. I can never remember the author's name, or the title was this really long title, but it too is about this dual personality thing going on. And that's very much, you have books in the 1800s like Frankenstein, Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and The Double by, I believe it's Dostoevsky, that deal with this doppelganger idea. Two sides of the same person, or two people that are the same person but they're different. They act different but they look exactly the same. This idea of the doppelganger was very big in the 1800s, and it continues into to current day. There are still stories written today about this idea of the double. They're all basically Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and that's basically what this is. But it is, but it isn't. It's a different story. It's more of a pulp story, and it's more modern for 1917 anyway than Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was. And it's a fun story. It's a fun pulp story. It's not a great story. This isn't great literature here, and I'm not giving it top tail, but it was very enjoyable to read. And I feel Austin Hall did an excellent job of characterization in this story. I really got a sense of these two minds, and also the two sides of George Witherspoon. It really came through in this, as well as just the feelings of dread and something bad going to happen, the whole setup of the whole thing leading towards what happens, and then the tension in the story as Walter and George's body tries to work things out. I thought it was a really good story, a really enjoyable story. I would recommend it if you like pulp style stories, if you like this period of weird or science fiction stories in, around the time of World War One and the 1920s, 1930s. If you're into those, you don't want to miss this story, The Rebel Soul by Austin Hall. It's a very good story. I recommend it. I enjoyed it a lot. Have you ever read The Rebel Soul by Austin Hall? If so, leave your comments in the comment section of the video and come on back. I'll be covering, it's a longer story. It's actually a novel, the second story in this series, the second and concluding story in this series by Austin Hall. I will be covering that next. Don't know what to expect. I've never read it. Austin Hall is kind of new to me, and I'm enjoying him. I'm enjoying his work. But I don't know what to expect from this next one, but I will be covering that in, probably 3 weeks. I believe I have it scheduled for the next Austin Hall video to go up. It's going to take that long because I got to finish The Stand first. I'm about halfway through The Stand, and I've never read a book that long. No, well, maybe Lord of the Rings is that long. Well, Lord of the Rings is considered 3 books. Otherwise, I've never read a book that long. And I had to take a break from The Stand just because I'm not used to reading something so big. But I am getting back into The Stand now. I will finish that up, so you'll be seeing that video before I get to the next Austin Hall video. But come on back for all the things that I'm doing here in Telltale Books. You'll see me in these videos. Don't forget to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and maybe even the bell to receive reminders of when new videos go up, which I only promise Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday, but I generally do put videos up on other days as well. So you'll see me in the next video.